Hello, my name is Lee Post, and I'm a senior at Bowling Green State University in their education program. I'm here to talk to you today about Marshallese immigrants within the United States education system, so thank you for coming. First, I want to acknowledge, though, that this will not be a light conversation because of the histories between the United States and the Marshall Islands, but I do think it's an important conversation to have as American citizens, especially regarding what we can do to rectify the problem and help Marshallese immigrants in the future and now. So this clearly isn't something the United States likes to publish about itself, but from 1946 to 1958, the United States essentially used the Marshall Islands and its people as live human test subjects, as essentially guinea pigs for their nuclear testing program.
While 67 devices were reportedly detonated in that period, the extent of the nuclear insult, for lack of a better word, the yield of those tests has been estimated at 1.7 Hiroshima shots every day for 12 years.
So this program had very serious short-term and long-term effects. Short-term, we're talking burns, environmental concerns, food shortages, birth defects that required a whole new language to describe. It's truly horrifying to read about, not to mention long-lasting impacts, not only on the land, which will never be the same in the water, but also on the people themselves as far as negative health indicators go. Marshallese people have quite a few consistent negative health indicators, especially cancers, not to mention environmental and economic concerns too. And the United States also was a major colonialist presence in there. American missionaries came in and established American ways of thinking, manipulated the education program to fit its own curriculum, which does not match the needs of Marshallese people and their students. So I just think it's important to first know the United States' true role in what happened to the Marshallese people and why they're coming to the United States today. So many Marshallese people come to the United States seeking better opportunities for education, access to health care for those health indicators that we talked about that cannot be accessed within the Marshall Islands, and for opportunities just so they won't receive there. And under the COFA treaties, the Compact of the Free Association treaties that the United States has with the Marshall Islands, Marshallese people are free to live and work indefinitely in the United States without a visa. However, because they are not United States citizens, by technicality, they cannot receive a lot of financial aid. So they cannot receive Medicaid, Medicare, and many of the insurances that they would need to afford the kind of health care. So essentially we trap them in a cycle of poverty. And Pacific Islanders, so not even Marshallese people, but Pacific Islanders in general, have higher than average rates of limited English proficiency and poverty, lower than average rates per capita of income and health insurance coverage compared to other ethnic groups. 73% of Pacific Islanders within the United States live in poverty, which is a higher percentage than any other ethnic group within the United States. Even compared to this broader group of Pacific Islanders, Marshallese have the highest unemployment rate and proportion of youth and are less likely to have a high school diploma, GED, or bachelor's than any other ethnic group. So these are serious concerns that most Marshallese people meet when moving to the United States. So these issues are clearly reflected in the process of education as well, when Marshallese immigrants are thrust headfirst into the American education system with little information about how those two systems differ and how that can create serious cultural and linguistic barriers when left unchecked. Local teachers talk about low language proficiency, expectations for culture or classroom participation are low. They don't do homework, they don't engage with the parents, and local Marshallese people talk about inapplicable curriculum, and issues with discipline-specific vocabulary, and a completely unfamiliar environment with teachers who don't speak your language. So it's very, very uncomfortable on both sides of this conflict because no side is entirely sure how to help the other understand each other. And part of the reason why that's happening is that there's a lack of resources from people who are in charge of education in our country. There are little to no educational resources in English about working with Marshallese students. And I know because I've dug through every crevice of the interview of the internet attempting to find something. But for example, the under certain federal legislation, the state of Ohio is required to provide standardized testing for some students who don't speak English as a first language, including some Marshallese students. The United States has yet to provide anything like that, and nor has the state of Ohio. So despite having legislation that states that for some students, the United States is required to provide these Marshallese students with testing in their native language, no such thing has been done. And there's actually a court case hopefully going up against this, so something will be done. But we're talking about some serious concerns in the education system that I think are really important to address. And this is something I try to address in my honors project because I created resources that will hopefully help local teachers understand the needs culturally and linguistically of their Marshallese students a little more. If that's something you'd be interested in reading more about or taking a peek at, just shoot me an email and I'd be happy to talk to you about it. So now the question becomes, now what? So now that you know this information, or maybe you already knew this information, what is our obligation as United States citizens toward these people that our government has displaced from their ancestral lands, has trapped in this cycle of poverty, has left in the middle of the American education system with teachers who don't speak Marshallese without any resources? What is our responsibility and what can we do to help? And this is a question that I hope more people will be trying to answer. How can we empower Marshallese people, Marshallese researchers, to get the news out about there and help teachers develop cultural competence to understand what their Marshallese students need from them, what it takes to build rapport with Marshallese students and their families. So this is something that I hope people will continue raising their voices about and listening to the perspectives of Marshallese community members and Marshallese students in their areas. If you have any recommendations, I would love to hear them. This is an issue that I think about a lot since starting my honors project, because before this I had no idea about the covered up history between the United States and the Marshall Islands. I had no idea about how dire the circumstances of most Marshallese people are. And it's something that I think we as citizens, as neighbors of these people, need to be thinking about, and how can we help them achieve their goals here in America. So if you have any recommendations or just want to talk about this more, my email's on the next slide, and I would love to hear from you. Thank you for hearing me out. And again, if you have any questions or you just want to talk, let me know.